Hey guys, I'm gonna show you for the next cooking video how to do the mac and cheese that we do in class. I don't know if anyone's doing any cooking, but this is a favorite and I feel really sad that you guys aren't gonna get a chance to make it. This recipe is already on Canvas. It's always there because it's usually a favorite. So I have the recipe here. This is what we use in class. It's a baked mac and cheese, so you're gonna make the noodles, make the sauce, and then put it together, put it in the oven. So I'll show you what I have going here. I have my water boiling, so it's ready for the noodles. The recipe that I'm using is a half batch, and I think that's what's on Canvas. So that's boiling, so I'm gonna go ahead and add my noodles. I actually have elbow noodles. You could use any kind of noodle. Sometimes there's one that's like really curly. I like that kind of noodle too for mac and cheese, but really any noodle will work. So it's a cup of noodles. If you use a bigger noodle, maybe do a little bit more than a cup. These are smaller, so I'm gonna add that. Okay, and then over here I have my sauce going. So in this I have 1/4 of a cup of butter. Turn that down a little bit. And so we're gonna melt that. And then to the butter, I'm adding 2 tablespoons plus 2 teaspoons of flour. And so we're gonna stir that up. This is what's called a roux, which is a base to any sauce. So that's something you'll learn in culinary too, if you take that. So you're just gonna stir that up and you'll see that it'll start to thicken. A whisk would be a better choice at this point, but this little spatula rubber scraper works as well. Okay, so we're going to let that thicken. And then to this, we're gonna whisk in the milk. And it's a cup of milk. You can use any kind of milk. I'm using a little bit higher fat. I'm using my toddler's milk, but skim milk will be fine. That's what we use in class. So we're gonna whisk that over the medium heat until that's a little bit thicker. So I'm gonna slowly add that. So this recipe was in our dairy unit, and one thing you need to know about cooking with dairy is you can't have your temperature too high. So I kind of have it just under a medium, so a medium-low temperature. And then you always want to be stirring it constantly. You just don't want milk to curdle. So we're gonna let that whisk in. And then that will get thickened as well. Turn my heat up just a little bit now that our milk is okay and it's not going to curdle. So you can see that that's starting to bubble and thicken, which is perfect. And then now we're going to add the rest of our sauce ingredients. So I'm going to add, I have the amount of cheese measured out for the recipe, but I'm only using 1 cup now. The half a cup goes on later, so don't dump it all in if you make this at home. So we're gonna add the 1 cup of shredded cheddar, and then we're going to add 3/4 cup of cottage cheese. Now, if you are not a cottage cheese person, trust me, you won't be able to taste it, and we're actually gonna whisk out all of the curds, so it'll be a smooth sauce. And then we're going to add 1 egg. So you guys know by now the egg is going to be a binder, so that's going to hold our sauce together. And then we're going to whisk this up. And then you're going to keep whisking until all the cheese is melted and the cottage cheese is no longer clumpy. So this will take a little while. So I'm gonna keep whisking and we'll show you what that looks like in a second. All right, so here's my sauce. I have just been whisking it on a medium-low heat. Again, you want to whisk constantly, and so now you can see that it's a thick sauce, super cheesy, and you could really use any kind of cheese other than the cheddar. That's just what I had on hand, or you can mix and match. Sometimes if I have a couple different kinds, I'll mix them. Anyways, so then the cottage cheese has all been melted out as well, and then my noodles are cooked and drained. We cooked them till al dente. So I'm going to mix the sauce and the noodles together, and then it goes in this 8x8 pan. And so I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so it's in the pan, and then you're going to take the rest of the cheese and put it on top. I actually don't use the rest of it because it's really cheesy. So if you like a lot of cheese, then use the rest for the topping. But for me, it's a little cheesy. And sometimes I add more noodles because the sauce is so thick. And that just kind of fills it out a little bit more. But other than that, it looks good. And then I just use, it's a baked mac and cheese. So we're going to put a topping on there so that it doesn't dry out. So this is 2 tablespoons of breadcrumbs per the recipe. If you don't have breadcrumbs, you could take some crackers and crush them up really fine. Or you could do, like, if you have Cheez-Its or Goldfish crackers, you could crush those up just like this. And then you just sprinkle it on top. And then that just gives it a little bit of crunch, which is kind of nice. And that's a baked mac and cheese typically has a topping on it. Okay, so then that's going to go in the oven and cook for 15 to 20 minutes. It's already cooked, but we want it to kind of come together. So it's going to cook for 15 to 20 in the oven. So yeah, that's the baked mac and cheese.